my dream.
No.
Really?
It was everything I thought it would be. It was absolutely beautiful. You bet. You can move it.
All right, welcome everybody. If you would all, let's call the meeting order. Let's stand and pledge allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. John, you give us communication.
Well, if y'all bow your heads, please. Father, again, we thank you for all the many, many blessings. Lord, we just ask you to be with us again and help us make good decisions for the people we represent. We just ask that you do this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. I need a motion for the regular meeting of August 20th. Motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve it. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye. Aye. I need a motion to approve the executive session for August 20th.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the meeting of August 29th.
I'll make a motion for the call meeting. Accept.
Got a motion to accept.
Second.
Got a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Where is it?
That's the way you. All right, no appearances for tonight. Public hearing, Sugar Bear #1 beer and wine license, sorry.
Sugar Bear #1 has taken, they have new owners again. So of course, new ownership means the new owners have to apply for the beer wine license in their name. Background check for Mr. Patel was good. And the zoning sign off from planning and zoning was good as well. So everything on our end was good. They were notified to be here, but if they wanted to be here, but I don't see them here. And I don't know of anyone that had an issue. Nobody called or came by the office with any complaint or anything.
No one here has any complaints or issues.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Motion carried. All right, special exception, manufactured home, US Highway 80 West.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'd like to present the application to y'all for a special exception on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Patsner. Tax map C016039. Present zoning is R1AG. It's approximately a 119 acre tract. adjacent to Beasley Road out on Highway 80 West. Applicant is proposing to place a new manufactured home on the property, and the application was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission at their August 15th meeting. Before I give you the recap of the meeting, we did receive 2 letters in regards to this application. First one was dated August 5th, addressed to the Crawford County Planning and Zoning Office. Attention, Jake Watson. Mr. Watson, I received your notice that Mr. and Mrs. Pastner had applied for a special exception to allow a manufactured home on US Highway 80 West, map C016039. I would like to see a photo of this manufactured home. My concern as a neighboring landowner is that it sets a precedence for, in essence, trailers. I know that many manufactured homes, when properly installed with skirting, insulation, and the appropriate amenities, can indeed look very nice. There are other manufactured homes that are simply trailer homes. Howard M. Ware Charitable Foundation is not objecting per se, but is holding in reservation a concern about the appearance and the potential precedents set in Crawford County for manufactured homes. Is there a standard? Is there a maintenance requirement? Outbuilding limitations? Thank you, Brenda L. Thurston, Executive Director Trustee for Howard M. Ware Charitable Foundation. I did reach out to Ms. Thurston on 2 separate occasions to try to answer her questions in regards to is there a standard? As y'all are well aware, there are standards for the installation of a manufactured home, such as a masonry underpinning around the perimeter of the home, minimum deck sizes on the front and rear. There are setback requirements from the property lines, as well as the aesthetic standards on the exterior of the home. This application, all standards will be met prior to a CO being issued. Like I said, we did try to reach out to Ms. Thurston twice to answer her questions, but was unsuccessful. Second letter was dated August 7th, 2024. To whom it may concern, my name is Blake Harris, and I live at 4981 Hopewell Road, Culloden, Georgia 31016. I wanted to address a letter I received in the mail stating that someone had applied for a special exception to allow a manufactured home on parcel C016039, which adjoins my property. I own 5 different parcels on Hopewell Road and have lived at 4981 Hopewell Road since December 2015. Before building a home on my property, I lived a couple of miles down the road where I was born and raised my whole life at 1140 Hopewell Road. I worked hard over the past 12 years to acquire, slowly over time, the 5 parcels I currently own. I have a wife and 2 small children. We built our forever home here because we intend to spend the rest of our lives here and have something to pass down to our children and their children in the future. I personally price manufactured homes, and in today's market, there are no substantial savings when choosing a manufactured home over stick building a home, cabbing, etc. This location is special to me as I was personally raised up here on Hopewell Road. I fear that allowing this special exception will have a negative impact on property values in my area. Regardless of whether these impacts happen in 1 year or 30 years, I am opposed to allowing this special exemption at the time and would like to publicly express that to the Crawford County Planning and Zoning. Sincerely, Blake Harris. As mentioned, the application was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission August 15th. In attendance of that meeting was Darren Suggs, Crystal Patton, Barbara Kelly, Joe Romeo, and Richard Joyner. After a brief question and answers, Mr. Joyner motioned to approve the special exception. The motion was seconded by Ms. Kelly. The motion was approved 5-0. The parcel in question is a 119 acre tract, as mentioned. It's adjacent to Beasley Road out on Highway 80 West. New manufactured home. Mr. and Mrs. Patzer are in attendance. I'll be happy to answer any questions as well as any that would be for them.
Did I hear that it is a new manufacturer? Single wide, double wide?
Double. I have photos in my phone.
Is this supposed to be parcel C016?
It's supposed to be a 6039.
I'm just saying it's wrong on here, so just wanna make sure it's recorded correctly, so people know what they're voting about or talking about.
So you missing a 6 on your check.
How many other mobile homes are in the area?
There's probably, I don't have an exact count, but as you come back closer to town here, you do have a mixture of manufactured homes that are in this area here.
I know of four.
One of the things that was questioned with the Planning and Zoning Commission, the proposed location of the home will be adjacent to the pond here. The distance off of the road, it does not appear like it will be visible from the road. The Passners also own this 2 acre tract up on the front of the property here.
Who owns that?
The Passners, they own it as well.
Oh, okay.
Does the proposed location meet the setback requirements?
Yes, sir.
Y'all have anything you'd like to add?
No, not really.
Any questions?
The lady who you weren't able to get in contact with, did she contact you via snail mail, U.S. Postal Service? Did you contact her back that same way, or did you try to call her?
On the phone number that she provided for me to contact her was how I reached out.
Holland and Ware is hard to get in touch with, period. They own a bunch of land.
But I think her questions in general, you know, were, does the county have standards that will have to be adhered to?
Yeah, we have some pretty good standards for manufactured homes. I don't have a problem with manufactured homes if they're set up right, properly, and as long as they go by all our. No sense.
I make a motion that we approve it.
Got a motion to approve,
I'll second.
got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Once y'all finalize
Alright. Any announcements, CPI info? No old business, moving on to new business, we have 2024 to 2027 Title VI program. Mr. Sherlock?
Yes, so this is our standard federal and state agreement on Title VI Civil Rights Act, regarding our transit, program. Because we receive federal and state funds, this is our agreement that we will, not discriminate on the basis of race, religion, national origin, color, whatever. And that's what this agreement states. We're supposed to approve this. We cannot change this information. Now, I will point out to you that included in this document, it's 27 pages long. Starting on page 8 is the new Title VI complaint form that the government is providing to us in case anyone has a complaint about our transit program. That goes through to page 12 where it discusses public involvement philosophy. What the rest of this gets into is language, English not being a first language. And so they ask us for data from the census, I suppose. If you go to page 17, it wanted estimates and percentages of English speaking versus non-English speaking. We do not fall within the criteria of having to provide excess language support. That normally falls at the 5% level. We have 45 people that identify as having speaking Spanish and English not being their first language. That's 45 out of 11,578. So it was less than 1%. So we don't fall under the 5% rule. Other than that, you can approve, we need to approve this in order to continue to get the federal funds to run the transit program. That's all it is.
Make a motion, we approve it as is.
I second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. All right, next up is the electric vehicle charger grant. Mr. Boykin. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. I apologize for my slight tardiness here. I was at the Warner Robins City Council meeting here just a few moments ago and drove here as fast as I could, but while not getting pulled over by the Crawford County Sheriff. So, but happy to be here and very excited actually to be here to share good news. So, when I first reached out to Sharon about the grant in question under the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Program from U.S. Department of Transportation, I thought we were reaching out for letters of support regarding a project that in general might happen in the future. And between that time and me getting here today, we got word that we received the funding, which is even more exciting. So the Middle Georgia Regional Commission partnered with the Middle Georgia Clean Air Coalition, of which Commissioner McCowan has been regularly attending those meetings and participating in those discussions. But in that partnership, we applied for and now have successfully received funding through the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Program, which will help to fund the installation of electric vehicle charging stations throughout all of Middle Georgia. So currently today in Crawford County, there is not a single accessible public EV charging station anywhere that anybody can use in Crawford County. I've seen more and more electric vehicles on the road through my anecdotal experience, as you know, I'm sure many folks have, especially if you're driving on the interstates. But our goal with the program was to make sure that no community in our region became drive-by country because you couldn't stop and recharge your car there. And so that's something that I know back when we were discussing your comprehensive plan last, you talked about, well, is there a way that we can do something along those lines in Crawford County? And I'm excited to be here today to say that yes, there is funding to do that. Now, we just got the good news of funding, so we don't need any sort of a commitment here right now tonight or anything, but want to at least present this information to you first, allow you to ask questions, and then think about the path forward and how we can continue our partnership in this regard. So the program across all of Middle Georgia is allowing us to fund about 100 sites for new EV charging infrastructure in the region. And that will come down as an 80-20 federal grant. So 80% of the cost paid for by USDOT, and then the other 20% is either paid by a host site where the charger is located, which could be a private business, could be a nonprofit, could be a public entity such as Crawford County, or alternatively, We can also work with our partner ChargePoint, who is the manufacturer of the equipment, to identify what you might call a third-party operator, in a sense, that would own and operate the EV charging station. They would cover the 20% match, and then be able to try to, recoup that cost by charging folks for use of it. So within Crawford County and in our conversations with ChargePoint, we believe that there are several good sites that would be advantageous potentially for EV charging. Nothing is set in stone, and we want your suggestions and feedback. But we recognize your county administration building as one where you've got folks who might stay for a prolonged period of time, be they perhaps taking a course at the Central Georgia Tech facility over there or conducting county business. It may also be an opportunity for the county to look at vehicles at some point in the future, depending on where gas prices are going. We also, I think, would like to look at something within the downtown area, recognizing that that'll probably be coordination with the city of Roberta, and possibly with the Chamber of Commerce as well, knowing that they've got a great site down there, right on, on the main street, in front of all of your businesses and shops, a place where we can have folks come in. And then we might even look at, in some outlying areas, if we can support it, at one of the large farms that might draw tourists into the communities as well too, working with those private landowners out there. But we wanted to present you with the information today, and y'all are actually the first community that we've gotten to come over and share the news with in person. So I'm very excited about that, but wanted to talk about the opportunity, see if you had any initial questions, and try to answer those, and or see how we can continue to work forward with a partnership going from here.
How many potential stations would there be for Crawford?
Our rough number to start with was at least 3 locations. Everything is still flexible at this point. So, we could be, we could potentially look at adjusting that number up or around a little bit. Our goal is that we can have enough centrally located so that anywhere in Middle Georgia, you don't have more than about a 15-minute drive to get to a place where you can charge. We know that one of the big reasons why folks don't choose an electric vehicle, even if they might be able to realize some long-term savings on the cost of gas or maintenance, is lack of charging infrastructure that causes range anxiety. So that was our big goal, to tackle that. But yeah, we can still be flexible with number of spaces as long as it is within the overall budget of the project that we're working on.
What is that budget?
Oh, yeah, great question. So for the entire region of 11 counties, we have $15 million, which is very exciting for us. A lot of that is going to go to the fastest charging stations that may be placed upon like the interstate corridors. And certainly there are another big push of the program was to make sure that multifamily residential complexes could be addressed. So there are several larger ones of those, for example, in Macon, where we're working with property owners in those areas as well too. So it does have to cover all 11 of our counties, but that I think still gives lots of opportunities to cover good areas. And the level 2 type chargers, which are the ones I think best suited to somebody sticking around, having lunch for an hour or so, and then getting on the road. Those are among the more affordable options, where the infrastructure itself of the charging station is not that expensive compared to the cost of just running the lines, the electrical lines to get to it. And that typically becomes your bigger cost, or an equal cost at that point. So for any one charger like that, you're probably looking in the range of no more than $10,000 as a local match on something like that. Of course, every site would have to have its own analysis and its own quote for that, and that's what we're here for, is to help facilitate that process if y'all want to move forward, so that you can have more informed numbers. But that would be about what we would be looking at.
So it's about $50,000 per slot? Is that what I'm getting out of the math?
I'd say that's a fair
How
fair
many-
range.
How many slots are standard for what you're proposing for our area? I mean, obviously, we're not gonna have level 3 Tesla superchargers here, but I get it, level 2, what's the standard? 2, 3, 4, 5 slots? What?
Yeah, typically you'd look at a couple of those charging poles, and each one would have 2 tied to it, so you could get 4 in a row, basically, for about that cost.
Okay, so 40,000. How much do we have out of the 15? How much is Crawford County being allocated?
I don't have that specific number in front of me, because part of it goes into feasibility of the cost recovery part of it. We want to make sure that we're setting everybody up for success if you do choose to charge people for charging. Pardon the unintentional pun there. So that number is still a little bit flexible, simply also because we're working with cost estimates that are about a year and a half old at this point. But we're looking for at least 3 sites at this point, which would be 2 chargers or 4 plugs at each of those.
Okay, and I'm sorry if I'm getting down in the weeds. If this is something we need to take offline, let me know. But so based upon what you're telling me, is obviously ChargePoint is a for-profit company. I've heard of them. So they're going to be charging for the power that they do at the sites that they get through this process. But are the governments, are we being told whether we're supposed to charge or not supposed to charge? Is there some difference in the allocation of money based upon whether we're charging?
You can do whatever you would like with that.
Okay.
Some communities will do it just completely free of charge because they just want to draw people into it, and a free charging station might get people to come to it. Whereas other folks, it is not uncommon at all to try to charge a little bit and recover that cost, because you would have an electricity bill for it.
That was going to be my next question.
Yes.
Was, are these direct charge or are these solar powered? Are they diesel generator backup? What types are these?
They would be tied into the full electrical grid.
Okay.
We're typically not going to have generator backup at those sites. There are options where folks can do solar and things like that. I know Warner Robins got a separate grant that they're actually investing a larger sum of money in with solar capabilities. These would not have those. These would be basic, tied into your grid systems.
All right. Gosh, that's all I can think of.
Yeah.
You asked some of my questions, but you said for the regional is 11 counties, correct?
That's correct.
So it hasn't changed.
Yes.
So you're saying you're looking at approximately 100 of those. And
Mhm.
you're looking between 2 and 3 here. But as Joel was talking about, you're talking about each charging station is going to have about a 4-prong setup. So for 4 vehicles, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Quick charge, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, or what is the definition of charging?
Great question. So, the typical speed of charging, if you wanted a complete full charge at a station like this, is typically going to be around the 3-ish hour range. However, most of the time, if you're using a level 2 charger, the preferred way that most drivers will use that as a top off, rather than I'm going to run the battery all the way dry and then try to charge it all the way back up. So that's more of you can plug it in for 30 minutes and maybe you come in at, half full, but then, you've got another quarter of it back or something, when you leave after having lunch or something like that.
And so therefore, you're in transit anywhere from, let's just say 30 minutes to, let's just say an hour and a half downtown. Chamber of Commerce, does that have accessibility close by? so that your tie-in is not gonna be very laborious as far as the logistics going in? Is it a close tie-in to effectuate that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of our goals is to, you know, and you know, we won't know about any one particular site until we bring a professional out there to do a full examination of it. But yeah, our goal is to make sure we find places that are tied in closely to the electrical grid, that can be easily connected to the existing power lines that are in place, and try to minimize the amount of time that we have to spend digging or laying power lines, because that's the thing that balloons the cost the
Well,
most.
what time does cost?
Well, that too.
When do we need to decide what areas that we're gonna put these in, or at least look at pricing?
So I would say that probably within the next 4 to 6 months is probably the time frame we're looking at here.
So we got 4
So-
months to all of us to start looking around the county, start talking and find out where we may be interested in putting 3 or 4 of these. I mean, we can choose
Yeah.
5 different sites and then see which one's more
Yeah.
feasible for doing it.
Well, great, you all gonna make suggestions as well?
Yeah, and so those were a couple of the suggestions that we had preliminarily. One being your administration building, one being a site downtown. But yeah, if y'all have other site suggestions, please share them with us, and we would love to vet those and see if they work out with the numbers. Not only in terms of amount of usage that we would expect to get there, while also making sure that we spread them out enough that we don't, that we don't leave any areas unserved also.
Who makes the final call on location?
It's a great question. Probably hadn't thought about that yet. So I'm going to say that that's something that we will likely have a committee that looks at and evaluates that, and it will probably be through the Middle Georgia Clean Air Coalition, if I had to guess.
Do we have a deadline for actually allocating or appropriating money out of this contract?
It will be 5 years from the date of grant award officially, which we have not even signed the paperwork yet. So 5 years from a day, likely a month or two in the future, depending on how quickly USDOT sends the paperwork to us.
Last legal question. Who is the contracting responsible party? Is that the county or is that MGRC as holder of the funds?
MGRC is the legally responsible entity for it. So we will handle the hard work of getting through the process, doing all the administration, working with folks, and that's why we already did a competitive procurement with ChargePoint back 18 months ago or so that they would be on board as soon as we got good news that we could move ahead. The next steps we would do would be looking at either procuring and would be doing necessary environmental reviews once the sites are selected. Again, that's something we'll be able to handle. Then doing any procurement of an actual installation company to perform the labor to put the station in, lay the lines, and if necessary, procurement of a third-party operator for any sites. If a perfectly ideal site is found and the owner says, I will happily have the station here, but I don't want to have to deal with it, basically.
Okay, thanks.
So,
I'm still, I think I'm letting this go through. I'm not interested in EVs, period, so what is the cost, gonna cost the county? Somewhere there's some money gotta be spent by the county. That's what I'm missing.
Yeah, great question. So if you decide as Crawford County that you want to actually own one of these stations, we'll say hypothetically, let's say you want one at the county administration building, then the county would pay the 20% match for the grant,
Okay, that's what I
which
haven't heard yet.
might be roughly about 10,000 or so, shouldn't exceed that. It's gonna vary a little bit based off of the exact location, all the technology that goes into the package, and and the logistics of actually running the power from your building to the site there.
But
What if we don't want one in the county?
they can go to Robert Dickey, and Robert Dickey can pay for it at his shop up there, and they can put one up there.
Yes.
It doesn't have to go through
Yeah,
us at all.
so it doesn't
can go
have
through
to
a private
be-
entity altogether. So
Yeah.
they can go to Knoxville store,
Okay.
they can go to,
So it
and that
doesn't,
entity
so
will
the county
cover it.
doesn't necessarily have to spend any money. for
Yeah,
it.
or alternatively, another option you have is you could say, we want a charging station at the admin building, but we don't wanna have anything to do with it other than having one here. Then what we would do in that case is we would go with ChargePoint out to the market and say, we're looking for ABC Power Company Incorporated, whatever that might be, because there are numerous companies out there that want to do this. And we might say, we are looking for somebody to own and operate an EV charging station at this site here in Crawford County. You pay the match. The county's only responsibility is they are giving this little plot of dirt where the charger itself is going to be sitting. And that's your commitment there. It's not financial. And you would work with that operator, owner-operator, to handle the full cost of the power that goes in and out of it. So you basically have those multiple options. One is you can choose to have it there and own it. And so then that way, you might want to use it or collect the money that comes in from it. B, you could have it on your property and say, we want somebody else to own and operate it. Or C, you could even say, we don't want one on our building, but we want you to work with, a business in the area, maybe a restaurant, maybe a grocery store, or, your Dollar General or something. And so we want you to work with them to try and get one at that site. And then we'll do that too, and they can do that as a private company. So we've got multiple different options to pursue.
Who is responsible for the maintenance of it? Say something go wrong with it within a year, and just say the county decided that they wanted to own one at the building. Who would assume the maintenance and the repairs and the upkeep of it?
Another great question. So that roughly 10,000, we'll say, that might be your local match, includes a prepaid 5-year maintenance plan with ChargePoint, where they would handle anything that is covered under warranty, anything that goes wrong with it at that point. After that, you could, if you wanted to, continue to renew that agreement. I believe that typically ends up being less than $1,000 a year for a site. If you want to continue that going forward, you could also say, great, we are going to take this product that we've got here right now, we're going to disconnect it from your network, and we're just going to use it ourselves. If it breaks, we will fix it, or we will call somebody to fix it, but we're just going to use it, and we're not going to pay for that ongoing subscription, but it's paid for within the first 5 years.
Okay.
As part of the grant and your local match.
Now, say vice versa, that you had a third party. We didn't want to own it. We donated the property or whatever. The third party, who takes?
They're responsible for that.
They would be responsible.
Yep.
The professional that's gonna come out, you talked about to do the assessment on the logistics as far as the feasibility. Would that be an electrical engineer, a general engineer, what type? And also the who, what, when, where, how, who pays for those costs, or are those costs wrapped into the, an amount if we assume that we're taking on that responsibility?
The initial assessment is covered by ChargePoint as the entity that we procured for the equipment itself. So they will take care of working with somebody to get somebody out there, and they're doing that because we're eventually going to be paying them the money for the station that will come out of the grant.
So it would be under their GNA.
Yes.
Okay, and then as far as the work itself is covered under the local DBA, correct? The Davis-Bacon Act.
Yes, it
Because it is
likely would
construction.
be.
It's
It
not
is.
service related, it's not SCA, it's DBA.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it would fall under Davis-Bacon.
DBA.
Yep.
I hate to keep beating this thing to death, but from a law standpoint, if we have one of these stations on county property, and someone's vehicle catches on fire and burns up,
Liability.
who's liable? Is the county liable?
Question.
That would depend on the fire investigation, I suppose, right?
And just say that.
Did our equipment burn it up?
Things
Did
do
Charge
happen.
Point's equipment burn it
Yes,
up?
you'd have legal
Did-
issues.
Did a Tesla just overheat and burn to the ground and
Right.
burn our stuff up, and then we have a claim against them? Facts matter.
$200,000 fine and that.
So,
Yeah, it's, facts matter.
We would be fighting it with legal.
Yeah, I can't tell you how it might happen, but it
things
has.
happen, things happen.
Things happen.
They do.
Today
Just
is
don't-
not a decision day, it was just,
Sure,
you
I
brought,
That's why I said I don't wanna
before-
keep beating it.
Yeah.
Great questions, though.
He has
Has anybody done a study to find out how many electric vehicles are in our county right now?
0.
Yeah, the last time.
Almost.
So the last time I looked at the data, it was a few years old, but the answer was 0. I think that was in 2021, perhaps, that I looked at that data. And there was an exact correlation, interestingly enough, across middle Georgia of all of the counties that had 0 EVs also had 0 chargers. So, and which makes a lot of sense. The two are related to one another. If there are no chargers, then you won't have anybody buying an EV, but you also may not have them stopping in their EV either. So, you know, it's a great question of the chicken and the egg, or which one comes first. What we have tended to see looking at market trends is that the share of electric vehicle ownership across the state of Georgia has been increasing. And so that's why the goal of this program and why we applied for it was recognizing that if the trend continues, it's only a matter of time before it grows beyond just Atlanta, and that having the infrastructure in place before the demand hits its greatest crest, if you will help our communities be prepared to meet that ahead of the curve. Is the goal of the grant program.
There's approximately 20 electric vehicles in the county, registered in the county,
They have their own chargers at their homes.
at their home. Mr. Hollis had taken this on as a project a few years ago about doing charging stations throughout the county, and we actually worked with the utility providers to find out what type of funding was available to offset the startup cost. And Flint was very responsive, but most of the ideal locations was in Georgia Power territory, and so we kind of run up onto a standpoint there. But this is very exciting because, as Mr. Boyke has announced, people, they will pass by quickly if they don't have a place to charge. There's actually maps that are available to help you route your trips to where you can know what communities have.
Yeah, and I appreciate you actually raising that point there, because the power companies are great partners in this. I know Georgia Power has, for a long time, had rebate programs for entities that install electric vehicle chargers in their service territory. They view it as a long-term positive because they're selling electricity. Flint Energies, I know, has been a great partner as well. They actually are making a sizable contribution to the city of Warner Robins for a major charging station pardon me, that they're doing on South Armed Forces Drive, right across from the base, actually. And so, that $10,000 maximum could be lower if you consider things like a Georgia Power rebate or something like that. That can knock off, 500, 1,000 from the price or something like that. Great.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for your time.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Boyd.
Absolutely.
All right, do we have any commissioner subordinate board feedback? Hear none?
So y'all have a meeting coming up, a district meeting in November. I have sent you on the email. I'll just need to know who's gonna, be attending. It's gonna be in Upson County.
You said that was on a, can you remember what night, day?
It's on a Thursday, I think. I sent the email on last Thursday or Friday, and just if you all would respond back, to let me know if you all would attend.
It's right around Thanksgiving, I think.
November the 22nd, I think is the day.
Yeah.
That is all I have.
18th, man.
You got an email?
No, I think that's what I put on my calendar.
Here you go. November the 22nd from 10 to 12, Thomaston, Upson County Civic Center. It is the 2024 Fall District Meeting. So if you can just let me know within maybe the next week or so if you will attend or not. That's all I have.
Alright, no executive session,
I make a motion we adjourn.
got a motion to adjourn,
Now, second.
and a second, all in favor say aye.
See,
I was
one
gonna
time.
sit there, man. I gave them to you all day
I
long.
pause.